Hi, and welcome to the Sharpening Stone, where we hone the skills to cut off toxicity and carve out a better future. I'm David, and in this video, we're going to cover part 2 of an introduction to a multi-part series where we discuss toxic versus healthy relationship behaviors to help you gauge the health or toxicity of your relationships. So if you're ready, let's get sharp. Healthy behavioral response, healthy relationship behaviors include taking responsibility when we own up to our flaws as well as our good traits. This could be considered or in line with humility, seeing and accepting ourselves as we are without condemnation, excessive condemnation, or excessive adulation. Being content with our successes and our good points, and being willing to work on our faults and our bad points. Honesty. In contrast to gaslighting, being truthful and faithful to reality, even though we may perceive and experience things differently because of the filters of our past experience, our beliefs. With honesty, we can make space and hold space for each other's perception of what's going on. And in so doing, be faithful to reality instead of trying to force the other person's perception to agree with whatever we want reality to be, whether it is or not. So honesty is a very healthy behavioral relationship. Now, that doesn't mean telling everything. That doesn't mean just data dump, here's everything from the least significant to the most personal. It's in stages according to trustworthiness, the boundaries that have been negotiated, set, and maintained. Connection to support systems. Healthy relationships are not in isolation. It's not just us and the rest of the world is separate. Healthy relationships, we have connections with other people who promote and support our well-being. No one person can meet all of another person's needs. We all need different people with different interests at different levels of trust and confidence and intimacy to meet our various, well, I think there are 12 needs that are typically identified that we have as human beings. And not everybody in our life is intended to meet all of those 12. Some meet some meet others. And that's an important distinction to make. Emotional acceptance. When both partners honor how the other feels instead of dismissing it, recognizing, hey, this is a sensitive spot for me. This is what it means to me. This is why I feel good or bad about it. And recognizing it's different for you, and being sensitive to each other, respectful of each other, so that we don't trample on each other with things like, how silly, I don't know what your problem is. I see it this way. Why can't you? We come from our own place, and respecting where we come from and how we experience reality now is crucial to healthy relationships. It's a very healthy behavior. Respectful communication. Respect, I look at as a combination of consideration and deference. It's recognizing, hey, this much is within my control and my influence out to you. And then beyond that, that's in your influence and your control. And I'll defer to you on what's in your control. That's not my job to manage. And I'll be respectful, considerate, and deferring to you in those areas and expecting the same in return. It's a reciprocal uh, two-way street, so to speak. We give and receive these things. I don't believe that relationships are give and take 50-50, 100%, 100%. I believe that relationships are give and receive, where we both give good, healthy behaviors to the other person, and we both receive those with gratitude and appreciation and acceptance. Because there's as much joy and healing and health in giving good things to people, and when they receive them, they give us a blessing of being able to bless them. If we don't receive good things from other people, we're cutting half the relationship off. And a lot of times that's where we come from. Toxic relationships, we don't believe we're worthy to receive. So listening and validating each other's feelings, giving and receiving that with each other as respectful communication to acknowledge each other's perspective is healthy. Financial partnership. Now, different relationships, business associations, friendships, marriages, family, parent, child, have different characteristics where it comes to this. Financial partnership for friends might be we're going out for lunch and we each pay our own way, or if you've bought or covered my costs last time, maybe I cover your costs this time. It's a partnership. It's never a if we're going out, you're paying because that's the way it's supposed to be because these are the rules I made up in my head or society made up or whatever. It's a partnership where both negotiate, agree, and abide by the terms that they agree to as far as finances. And it involves shared responsibility, transparency, openness, honesty. And again, all at different levels, depending on the relationship and the level of trustworthiness that it has and the level of intimacy. Giving and receiving affection. This can be everything from just a friendly smile, a handshake, all the way to deep physical intimacy. It can be physical, it can be emotional, it can be psychological. It's a positive regard, one for each other. And not a delusional positive regard, but an honest one, a humble one, where we recognize each other's flaws and good points and recognize that we can both be imperfect and uh, worthy at the same time. Healthy jealousy and protectiveness. Uh, Envy and jealousy are not the same thing. Envy is when somebody covets, to use an old term, or craves something someone has and wants to take it from them. They don't have it themselves, they want to take it from someone else. Jealousy is a protectiveness of what we have. It's wanting to keep our treasures ours, but not to the extreme. And our treasures being our relationships, our intimacy with our relationships, whatever level that may be. So healthy jealousy doesn't go to the extreme. It doesn't rage. It may express um, discomfort and anger over something, but it's always got the room to allow for a restoration of the relationship back to peace and affection and commitment. Um, Healthy jealousy and protectiveness looks out for not just our own wants and needs in the relationship, but the other person's wants and needs in the relationship equally. If we see somebody who's a bad influence and we want to protect our partner, we may address it with them. Hey, this is what I see. I'm concerned You can make your decision, but it's going to have some impacts if it goes the way I think it's going to go. Hopefully it goes better. We look out for each other's well-being and to protect the health of the relationship, not just the existence of it. In contrast with the toxic side, that kind of extreme jealousy is hell-bent on cutting off all other connections to protect this one relationship, no matter how toxic it becomes. And this makes sure that the relationship remains healthy. It protects that. Trust and confidence. When both partners feel able to trust and be each other and have confidence in their relationship, there's doubt is never necessarily going to be completely gone. I mean, we're human, we're people, but trustworthiness can go a long way, both giving it and receiving it, to build confidence where we feel safe relying on the relationship, status, conditions, terms, knowing what we can expect from the other person and what they can expect from us. And this builds up harmony. Trust and confidence does between us in relationship with whoever we're in a relationship with. Because even though we might be playing different notes in the relationship, those notes merge together and make a beautiful chord that's part of a larger piece of music in our lives. Open and honest communication. When both partners communicate openly, secrecy and privacy are not the same. In healthy relationship, there may be things that we don't know about each other that we don't share with each other. And that's fine. We're still individuals, but they're not secrets. It's not manipulative. It's not important things that affect the other person in a significant way that we hide from them in order to manipulate them into believing, saying, doing, or with refraining from something for our benefit. This open, honest communication is a free-flowing sharing with that trust and intimacy or fearlessness. Intimacy really means without fear. That can be at all kinds of different levels in different relationships. But open and honest communication facilitates that and grows out of that. It's a spiral that builds on itself. It's I guess instead of a trauma loop, it's a healing loop. And that's what we want to get on, our healing loops. Almost to the end. We've got the open, honest communication, self-confidence. When both partners have a strong sense of themselves, they know themselves, they're their own best friends, they are okay with themselves without anybody else's need for anybody else's approval or criticism. It may come, it may be listened to or heard, but at the end of the day, I have decided what I am comfortable with in my own conscience, in my own behaviors. Now, that doesn't mean that I do something horrible, but I decide I'm fine with it, therefore it's good. No, this is the kind of confidence to know or to treat ourselves as reliable and trustworthy to think, analyze, feel, perceive, process, observe reality, and interact with it in a way that is accurate. It's having that confidence that I can make this decision and I'm not married to the outcome. I can explore what happens from it and trust myself to adjust as I go. Very different from a toxic behavior where there's no self-confidence and we defer to someone else to make every decision for us. Self-esteem. Both partners, this ties in with the self-confidence, value themselves, not in an excessive way, not to the extreme, but in an accurate way. knowing our strengths and our weaknesses, our good points and our bad points, and recognizing that innately, inherently, just for living, we have dignity and worth that is independent of anything we do or fail to do. Excuse me. Healthy boundaries as a healthy relationship behavior. This ties in with, excuse me, I'm going to have to take a sip of water. Healthy boundaries is learning ourselves well enough to know what we can tolerate receiving and giving without infringing on our health and our well-being. Setting those boundaries, negotiating them because they may change over time, and enforcing them so that when someone crosses those boundaries, violates them, or tries to persuade us or coerce us to violate those boundaries in giving to them, that we maintain them. And healthy boundaries, I will say this, in my opinion, are worth maintaining at the expense of any relationship. Now, that said, I can't tell anybody what to do in their own relationship. Everybody's got to negotiate that themselves. I'll say that. And still, I have relationships that are less than healthy, where healthy boundaries are crossed on a regular basis, but I'm still in those relationships because leaving them would have much more negative impact on my life or the life of other people um, than maintaining or dealing with the violations of that boundary is worth. So everybody's got to make their own decisions on that. However, when we do get to the point of being able to implement, negotiate, set, and maintain healthy boundaries consistently, what we begin to find is that all of our relationship boundaries in all of our relationships start to become healthier and healthier and healthier as our healthy boundaries drive away toxic people who persistently try to violate them or get us to violate them. And they become very attractive to people who are setting healthy boundaries and healthy themselves, because we become safe for them to connect with. And we become an agitation for toxic people that are stuck in all kinds of toxic behaviors. We become an agitation to them that they don't want to deal with when they can manipulate somebody else much more easily. Interdependence is the last of our healthy behaviors in relationship. Instead of independence or codependence, interdependence is we're both capable and competent in and of ourselves to a large degree. Now, none of us is competent in everything, perfect at everything. We all need each other, but we're able to complement each other's weaknesses with our strengths in a gentle way, in a kind way that doesn't rub each other raw. And that interdependence is kind of, sometimes we refer to it as knocking off the rough edges in relationship. It allows us to play to our strengths and to have a relationship where we can grow and create something even bigger and better than either of us could do on our own. So that is an extremely healthy relationship behavior, being interdependent. So where do we go from here? Well, in the rest of this 8-part series, and again, it may be longer, more parts if we need to make each part a little smaller. We're going to explore these paired up between the toxic and the healthy relationship behaviors, and explore what relationship boundaries are in the first place, because we talk about that a lot. But in this series, we're going to explore and define what those boundaries are to kind of give a framework to what all these different behaviors affect, where they come into play, how they can be identified, excuse me, so that we can hold ourselves and our counterparts in any relationship accountable to the degree that is healthy and safe to do. How do relationship behaviors violate the boundaries? Yeah, we want to address that, as well as where they support those boundaries. How do they correspond to abuse, neglect, and abandonment in toxic relationships versus nurture, attentiveness, and commitment, which is what we're craving in healthy relationships. If we have nurture, attentiveness, and commitment flowing both ways, being given and received, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Going forward from here in this series, we're going to discuss how to spot and identify these different behaviors accurately. Again, just because something looks kind of like a behavior doesn't necessarily mean that it is that behavior. Typically, much like with reading body language, nonverbal cues, when there's a cluster of these behaviors, that's when we can say, yeah, it's probably this. If it's just one or two, it could be somebody's having a bad day, a bad week, maybe some health problems that are persistent that we don't know about, and it's kind of coming out in one of these types of behavioral expressions. So learning how to spot them accurately and not just jump to one conclusion at either extreme. How to start healing our wounds and to stop attracting toxic relations so that we can make space to attract healthy ones. If we don't address our core wounds and work on healing that, we could fake healthy behaviors and fight toxic ones and have an appearance of health and well-being in relationships. But it's like trying to build a house out of matchsticks on the sand in a hurricane. It won't last. And when it comes down, it'll come down hard. So to be in healthy relationship, we have to become people who work on our own wounds to make those healthy. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't have any relationships that are healthy until we've healed, because these kind of flow together. Healing requires healthy relationships, which requires us being in the process of healing or healed, which it kind of ebbs and flows back and forth. So it doesn't have to be perfect. There are a lot of room for grace in fumbling the ball, in slipping and falling into toxic behaviors again. The point is not in healthy relationship, the point is not to never do anything hurtful, wrong, neglectful, offensive, disrespectful, untrustworthy. None of us are capable of achieving that. The point of healthy relationships is about how we recover when we miss the mark and do something that is in violation of our ideal self, of the loving, kind person that we're aiming to be, that causes harm, or injury, or pain to our partner. Even when we've intended it, we were angry and we wanted to hurt their feelings. And then, you know what? I was an idiot. I was a moron. You didn't deserve that. I wasn't right of me to do that. I had reasons, but it's not justified. And correcting the relationship in humility and honesty and openness back to a state of peace and harmony and safety. That's the point of healthy relationship. It's not about perfection and never getting it wrong. It's about returning back to healthy when we do get it wrong and putting in the effort to keep it healthy. Hey, thank you for sharing this time with me. You're not alone. If you'd like to start or continue your recovery journey, I invite you to join us at the Sharpening Stone Coaching on meetup.com. We have a 100% free, Narcissistic Abuse and Complex Trauma Recovery Support Group. And we'd love to see you there. It's a caring group of people. We've all been through experiences, and there's a lot of validation and wisdom sharing that goes on. Until then, whatever you decide, do what's best for you, and I wish you the best success in everything.